Hello and welcome back to Odds Now for the latest edition of the EFL. I'm delighted once again to be joined by my esteemed EFL expert and co-colleague, Mr. Gab Sutton. My name is Matt Hill, and between us, we'll be doing our usual run-through of the upcoming slate from across the Championship, League One and League Two. If you're watching the EFL Betting Show for the first time, welcome along. It's a pretty simple format to follow. What we'll do is myself and Gab will pick one game each where we have a fancy from each of the three divisions, give our reasoning, have a little bit of back and forth, and then at the end we will round everything up and we'll put a point single on each of our fancies and a half-point single on our respective treble. Now, I'll just warn you, Gab's treble this week, I could barely get the odds of it onto the graphic. It's that big. What him this week, he's gone extremely ambitious. But as it stands, Gab is the only one of us to get a treble up this season. So I'm going to not do too much talking down of it. We shall see how things go. But Gab, I don't know what you had for breakfast this morning, mate. You woke up.
Bit of Red Bull.
Yeah, well, maybe something stronger. I don't know. We shall see anyway. So we'll dive straight in that case then, Gab. We start with the Championship as always. I said you've gone for some ambitious picks. This is a 9-1 poke in the Championship for you. It's a correct score. We're taking basement club Sheffield United, who are away to Oxford, and it's the 0-0 draw you want to be with here at 9-1. Tell us a little bit about how you've come to this conclusion.
So I think Sheffield United can't possibly start the Championship season with 7 straight defeats. And I think that
I've got a Mick McCarthy meme running through my head here. They can.
They can. And I think they're just going to get. They've got lots of imperfections with the squad that we could go all day about, but I think they're basic because it didn't, the script was written last week and it was going to be the day they kind of got their season up and running, and Wilder came in and he made I think we might have talked about it on this show.
We both backed them, Gab, but
I know, yeah. Got that completely wrong.
Yeah.
And it was a slightly improved performance, but it's another defeat for Sheffield United. And so I just think, I think it's like they've got to stabilise defensively now and make sure that they open their points account for the season. And I think that's going to be reflected in their performance. And I think certainly without somebody like Vinicius Souza, who they've really struggled to replace this year, they don't have that physical dominant presence at the base of midfield that can allow City Peck to go forward and the rest of the team to. So I think they're going to kind of basically compensate for that by saying, right, while confidence is low, we're going to have a really solid defensive shape. We're going to have 2 banks of 4, and we're going to make it really difficult for Oxford. And that's actually often how Gary Rowett's teams have got their results in the Championship. I don't know if the Gary Rowett team is going to have the creativity to break down a team that plays some of their own game. So that's why I fancy the 0-0 draw. I think Sheffield United are going to go, we can't lose 7 on the spin to start the season. And I think Oxford are going to struggle to find the answers. So I think this is going to be a 0-0.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Gab, but a few times this season and last, you've talked about Gary Rowett teams and their tendency to go back to basics themselves as well. I know you quite like the low-scoring affairs with Oxford as well. Did that weigh into your thinking as well?
Yes, yeah, as well. I think it's very common off the top of my head for Gary Rowett's teams to either keep a clean sheet or only concede 1 goal. Tends to happen about I would say 3/4 of the games that his teams play, it's a 0 or a 1 in the against column. So yeah, that comes into it as well. I don't know if I'm playing your hospital pass here, Matt, but if there is an under 1.5 option on here that gives people an alternative if they don't fancy backing the 0-0, because I recognise that it's a bit of a long shot, this one, and you might be more comfortable of having the security of if there's a first goal for either side, you're still in it. But I'm actually going all out for the 0-0 because I can see it playing out that way.
Yeah, well, I could certainly get that for you, Gab. The one thing I would say about 0-0s is that a lot of casual punters don't like backing 0-0 because it may feel like a bet that you can't sort of celebrate, even till the 95th minute of 0-0, you're still in jeopardy, aren't you? So there's a very well-known thing amongst betting circles that people love to back overs, or like over 2.5 goals, and that generally can make unders a little bit undervalued on occasion. But yeah, under 1.5 goals is 12-5 with Bet365. So still a big chunky price there. 5-2. And that keeps obviously the 1-0 win either way on side. But like I say, Gab, he's woke up feeling ambitious this morning. He's going to go all out for this 0-0 correct score, which is 9-1 best price with Sky Bet. And we will, as always, round up all selections at the back end of the show. So stay tuned if you want a nice little summary. Over to me then for my championship selection. I'm keeping it a little bit more simple, although I still think this is a nice price, to be honest. I'm going to back QPR to beat Sheffield Wednesday at north of 6-4, which, it was a bit of a price play, to be honest. I'm not sure I'd have rushed back QPR necessarily on their own, but I think 6-4, it probably just... There's a bit more of a chasm between these two sides than that price reflects for me at the moment. The Ars did not have a great start to the season by any stretch, and you'll remember that humbling 7-1 defeat by Coventry. But I remember us talking about that game in the following week, Gab, and it was one of those days where we said everything just seemed to go in for Coventry that day. It wasn't necessarily as bad as it may have looked to the neutral. And I think they've kind of proved us right with that a little bit, because they've come back here with 3 straight wins, really impressive results as well. And I think all credit has to go to the manager there, because like to pick a team up from a 7-1 defeat, that is the kind of result that can really damage confidence and really, really tough to turn around from. So I think Julian Stevens done fantastically well to get that response from his side. Like I said, they come here off the back of 3 straight wins over Charlton 3-1, Wrexham 3-1, beat Stoke 1-0, who've been going well this season as well. So I think they go to Hillsborough in good spirits. Now Sheffield Wednesday, to their credit, got their first win of the season last time out against Portsmouth, and it was a deserved win, 2-0. I think the goals, a free kick from Barry Bannon. The second goal was a little bit unfortunate. I don't know if you remember, the Portsmouth defender actually was injured, and the young lad Brown decided to play on and score, which fair play, first senior goal. Not going to criticise him too much, but I think Portsmouth would have liked the ball kicked out of play there probably. But no, I thought they were good value for it. Really impressive sort of camaraderie being shown in the circumstances, but it is ultimately a thin squad, and in certain areas you feel like that is going to tell more often than not, and it does just worry me that I don't think, because of the lack of depth, that Wednesday are capable of going on, really good runs of 3, 4, 5 wins. I think it's going to be the odd good result here, the odd good performance there. But the general theme of this season, I think, is going to be ultimately coming up a little bit short. And they're coming up against an informed side here. Their home form has been dreadful thus far. Played 3, lost 3 in the league, scored none, conceded 8. So that would be a massive concern. And I think QPR, they've got a forward in Richard Corner who'll be licking his lips at this game with 3 goals in 5 games, starting to look really sharp, starting to look like the Richard Corner that we saw thrive so much at Wickham. And I think all things considered, I'd probably have been tempted to back QPR, even closer to evens.
I was going to say, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. I'm pretty much done. As I was saying, even at evens, I'd have been considering them. So to get 6-4 or bigger, it just feels too big.
I know, yeah. I think if I was in the trader's shoes, I think I would probably price QPR around the even money mark. So to get them even bigger than 6-4, actually, at 31-20 with BetMGM, I think that's brilliant value. The other factor I'd give you to support that argument, and it's horrifying that I've got to agree with you, Matt, because I'm much more comfortable disagreeing.
I know.
It's scary for both of us.
Unsettled me, to be honest.
I know, yeah. I think Sheffield Wednesday might take more points away from home this season than at home, because when there's a club in complete crisis and disarray off the field and fans are protesting against the owners, I think sometimes it's easier to play away from home. And actually, this is a theme I'm going to come on to in future bets, in a different angle. But I think Sheffield Wednesday, when they're playing at Hillsborough, there's almost more of a psychological focus from the fan base on protesting against Chancery, and rightly so, because something's got to be done about that, of course. And it's been horrendous ownership and mismanagement of a great football club. Away from home, there's still the chance against Chancery and everything, but it's a bit more focused on, channeled slightly differently, perhaps, because they've made all that journey, and and we saw that possibly at Portsmouth. It's like everyone comes together, whereas at Hillsborough it maybe feels a little bit different. So that's why
on the same theme as well, Gab. Like when you're at home and you're struggling, there is still an expectation from the fans to have a goal because you're at home. Whereas I think Sheffield Wednesday in their current play are maybe a little bit more suited to just sitting back and seeing what the opposition and taking their chances from a set piece like they did at Portsmouth. And you can sit in a little bit more away from home, which often suits struggling sides. Whereas, as much as they're struggling and fans understand the struggles, you're still at home. There's still going to be an expectation when a fullback's got the ball to play forward and try and do something. So, yeah, I agree with you. And I think that the off-field stuff, I totally agree as well. Away from home at the moment will be more comfortable for those players. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're right that we do see a trend where they pick up the odd win away from home. But yeah, I'm going to back the struggles at Hillsborough to continue here. I do also have a lot of faith in QPR at the moment. I think they're playing really well. Yeah. And I think the 6-4 looks a massive price. So
Richard Kone could do some damage as well.
He could. And Punters Panel, which is going live later in the day, I believe one of our tipsters in that has put Richard Kone any time up as his best goal scorer bet. So you'll have to visit oddsnow.com to see who that was and what else is on there. They'll be going up this afternoon. We'll roll over to League One then, Gab, and you've continued your aggressive thing. This is the shortest price selection you've given this week, and it's 4-1 basically, bigger than any of mine. You've gone in the half-time, full-time market here, Bolton, Northampton, and I'll be honest, I was very close to picking this game myself. I had a good dive through the markets here. I wanted to kind of get with Bolton. I wanted to get with unders. I thought it could be a low-scoring affair. And I'm guessing that's the kind of theme that you're going to follow here with this bet, because you've gone for draw at half-time and Bolton to be winning at full-time, which is just shy of 4-1 with William Hill. Tell us a little bit about this one, Gab.
So I've seen Northampton a few times under Kevin Nolan since he took charge about 9 or 10 months ago. And he's very much continued the organisational framework that John Brady implemented, and they're a very well-drilled side. They play in a 3-4-3 formation, but at possession it's very much like a back five, and they've got two in midfield that sit. And I think they can be very difficult to break down. And I think at home, especially in the first half, where their energy levels are going to be high because they're going to spend a lot of time without the ball against a really good footballing Bolton side, I think they're going to keep them out because they're good at pressing. They've got Ethan Wheatley, who's good at that, Cameron McGeehan as well, and Tyrese Forner. And then they've got that defensive solidity as well. And I think they're going to limit Bolton, who are going to maybe find it difficult to find a way through. But the reason why I would say Bolton can maybe win it in the second half, a few reasons. Firstly, the depth they've got. So in the last game, they brought on Josh Sheehan and Aaron Morley, who have been star players for Bolton Wanderers in previous seasons. They came on with 5 minutes.
We'll probably get into most League One sides as well, Gab, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. For sure. So those are top quality midfielders that are on the bench for Bolton, which kind of highlights their depth. Secondly, I think Stephen Schumacher is a very agile or adaptable tactician, where he's able to change things in game and make tweaks that move his side forward. And thirdly, I think Northampton's energy levels might drop off in the second half if they're spending a lot of time without the ball. So I think there's a high likelihood that this might be goalless at half-time, perhaps. And then in the second half, Bolton's quality will tell, as Northampton drop off a bit and Bolton will find a way through. So a bit of a niche angle, this one. But I'm going with it at 19-5.
Yeah, and I think actually I was looking earlier, and when I was having a look at this game, all of Northampton's games this season, I think maybe bar one, have gone under 2.5 goals. So, they are keeping things tight, which I think when you're expected to struggle is a good sign. And they're keeping themselves in games, and there'll be a lot of games, I'm sure, where they can grind out a point or nick 3 points when, they've just given themselves a base to build off. But I do find myself agreeing with you here, Gab, that I think Bolton's depth and extra quality should tell. I like the angle of the draw half-time, Bolton full-time, and the price is certainly attractive as well at just shy of 4-1. So a really nice pick. And if you get the first two up, then it'll be all eyes on League Two for a massive monster treble. But anyway, before we go on to Gab's League Two pick, let me just put in my shout for League One, which is going to be Stockport. I'm backing them to beat Reading with over 2.5 goals in the game here. Stockport, interesting to try and assess their start. I suppose a little bit slower out of the blocks than they would have liked this term. I think a lot of people fancied them to be in that automatic promotion race. It's still very, very early days, of course, and they are just outside the playoffs. So very much still in their own hands this season. But I think the recent signs, the last couple of performances, been very encouraging. I watched a lot of their 1-1 draw with Cardiff, and I actually thought they were the better side for large periods of that game. And that's a Cardiff side that I've said on previous weeks, I've actually backed them for the league at sort of 7-1, 15-2. I'm still rating Cardiff very highly in this particular edition of League One, but I thought Stockport showed that they can match with the best. Their home record at Edgeley Park for years now has been really, really strong, and they've continued that theme this season. They beat Bolton and Burton there, got that draw with Cardiff where they're arguably the better team, and they lost to their only loss was to league leaders Bradford. That was a very, very tight game. Nothing to split them on, or any of the stats really. And I think Sarcevic.
It was Sam Walker that day, wasn't it? Making a great save.
It was, and I think Sarcevic got the winner quite late on. So when you look at Bradford's start, that doesn't feel as bad as it maybe did at the time for Stockport, I think. So I have a lot of faith of Stockport at home under Dave Challoner. Reading are an interesting case, aren't they? Because last year, obviously, a lot of off-field turbulence, like we touched on with Sheffield Wednesday, but they managed to kind of get over that and perform really well on the pitch. They were chasing the playoffs for large periods. I think they finished 7th, just missing out in the end. And there was a lot of positive noise around sort of Noel Hunt and the work he was doing at Reading. But it's been a frustrating start for them, I would say, down in 20th at this early stage. And I would be particularly concerned about their away form, to be honest. No wins from 4 on the road, lost 2, drawn 2. They are at least scoring goals. 3-2 loss at Barnsley. They blanked at Lincoln 2-0, but then 1-1 and 2-2 draws with Bolton and Wickham as well. So they're getting themselves on the score sheet here, but generally finding themselves outclassed in these kind of fixtures. And given I rate Stockport as one of the sort of highest quality teams in this division, I'm more than happy to get Stockport on side. But the price is short. I think they're 4-5 best price to win this Stockport, one of the shortest price favourites on the coupon this weekend. And I'm kind of banking on Reading to continue that goal threat that they've displayed. So I do think that if Reading get on the score sheet, then obviously that brings the Stockport to winning over 2.5 match goals into play, which is a much more attractive price, just north of 6-4. And that is kind of how I see this game going. I see a 2 or 3-1 win for Stockport here. Of course, back in the over 2.5 as well. You don't necessarily need Reading to score. You just need Stockport to get 3+, which is more than viable. I do like Stockport at home. I think the performances have probably been a bit better than results have suggested in the last 2 or 3 outings in particular. And I just worry a little bit about Reading at the moment. There's a little bit of noise around Noel Hunt as well, and his future, and that seems a bit harsh to me given what he did last season. But we know football's a ruthless business, and I'm sure if Reading are still down in 20th after another, say, 10 games, then there will be a little bit of concern. But for this weekend in particular, I'm banking on Stockport to get the job done, as the market suggests they will, but I think they might do it with a few goals as well.
I think I might push back a little bit on that one, Matt, which is I don't know if I'd feel ready to back Stockport at odds on at the moment, because there's just a slightly unsettled feel I get from around the club, where Dave Challoner has said a couple of things in the media about the fans. You're right that they've had some decent performances in recent games, but also had some games where they were quite lucky early on, where they had some poor performances and just managed to kind of, amass a decent points haul without playing particularly well. And so I'm just not sure that I'm in that place where I'd be ready to back them at odds on. I think I share your concerns around Reading. And so if this was around the even money mark, I'd possibly consider it, despite my reservations about Stockport. But at 7-10,
I do agree, Gab. The main reason I've added the over 2.5 goals in this, because I couldn't get with Stockport at odds on quite. But I do agree with your reservations, and I find it hard to push back too much, because I do follow Challoner's sort of comments, and it is a little bit unsettling. And I guess it'd be a good good chance to tap into your knowledge, because I know you talk a lot with like fans of these clubs and stuff as well.
Sure.
What do you feel like the expectation is from county fans this season? Are they expecting playoffs as a minimum? Because I still think that when you think about the speed of which they've gone through the leagues and stuff, to be expecting top 6 League One, as much as we maybe do, because we've seen what they're capable of, they're doing fantastically well to be up there, aren't they, in the top 6 every year?
Yeah, absolutely. I was definitely quite surprised when I spoke to one or two people. I think Claire on Twitter wasn't overly happy with how Stockport were setting up for certain games, and two things that Dave Challoner was coming out with, and I was definitely felt at the time that was quite strong. But Claire's obviously somebody who's in other normally very level-headed about things, so it sort of surprised me a little bit. I think, but I also think Dave Challoner has done an unbelievable job, and maybe he feels like he deserves a bit more respect for the fantastic work that he's done there. But I think it's fair, given the budget that Stockport County have, not necessarily based on the size of club or their recent history, but based on the size of, or based on the budget that they've got. I think there probably is an expectation on them to finish in the top 6. But I have to say, I think Dave Challoner's done an unbelievable job there.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, that's why we've got Gab here to tap into that extreme knowledge of the EFL. He's just urged a little bit of caution for me here, but I'm going to stick to my guns with Stockport to beat Reading and over 2.5 goals, 33-20 with 10 bet. We'll go into League Two then, Gab. I've teased this. You've got another massive price here, a 9-1 shot again. This is with Betfred. MK Dons, the anti-post favourites for League Two. They've certainly made a sluggish start compared to what the market expected of them. But you're keeping the faith here. You're going to back them on a -2 handicap against Shrewsbury. Now, Shrewsbury were a team that I think we were both very concerned about when we last spoke about them a few weeks ago. They've had the odd result here and there, but generally the theme has been quite negative for the Shrews. And we discussed the possibility of this ill-fated double relegation that my team suffered last year in Carlisle, and we do see it happen sometimes. And do you still hold that fear for Shrewsbury? I'm guessing the fact that you want to get so against them means you're not yet sold on Michael Appleton's side.
Yes, I have some concerns about Shrewsbury. I've got a question for you, actually, that to kind of enhance my argument a little bit here. If the game was the exact same fixture, but it was played at Stadium MK, what do you suppose the price that a -2 handicap for MK Dons win would be?
Good question. Yeah, a lot shorter than this, obviously. I think you'd probably be looking at closer to 4-1, 9-2, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So I think that the chances of MK Dons winning by 3 or more goals is actually greater at it used to be called Greenhouse Meadow. I think it's called something. Is it New Meadow?
New Meadow, I think. Probably with a sponsor tagged on as well. But...
Exactly, yeah, thank you. I think it's actually more likely that it happens at New Meadow than it would be at Stadium MK. And this is why. I think in the betting industry, because in general, in the macro picture, it's likelier for a team to win at their team's got a better chance at home than they have away. That's generally the case, and that's how they apply this kind of one-size-fits-all blanket rule where you always price the home teams more favourably and whatever else. I think that sometimes means that there's actually value in backing against the home team if they're in a specific circumstance where they might be better suited to playing away from home. So we've spoken about Sheffield Wednesday, completely different reasons, but it's to do with the ownership, that they might be better at playing away from home. I think for different reasons, maybe because, there's an uneasiness around the club, because, fans aren't sure about Michael Appleton yet. I think Shrewsbury are better suited to playing away from home as well. They got their victory at Barnet, didn't they? So the bulk of their points have actually come away from home so far. I think that you put in this combination of a manager who's already under scrutiny, fans that are sort of not entirely happy with him, fans that aren't entirely happy with the running of the club in general, and some question marks over Roland Wycherley's ownership regime. and they're facing a team in MK Dons who could be a wounded animal after losing at home to Accrington Stanley last weekend, but have got incredible quality and depth in their squad. I think that there's a scenario here where MK Dons get an early goal, and this could be a total whitewash because MK Dons could run away with it because the atmosphere around Shrewsbury is going to be very tense and frosty. So I think there's real value here in this 9-1 with the MK Dons -2 handicap, simply through playing on the fact that my opinion, which is MK Dons have actually got a better chance of running away with this game at New Meadow than they would at Stadium MK.
Okay, so by that logic, Gab, if someone was just looking for a straight win bet on MK Dons at 5-4, would you still endorse that, or do you think it's one of those where the first goal will dictate it?
Well, it's similar logic, isn't it, Matt? Because I think if this was played at Stadium MK, I would think they'd be around the 1-2 mark. Do you think?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the logic that I would run with.
Okay. So a big endorsement for MK Dons. And just Gab, just quickly before we move on the wider picture, how are you feeling about MK Dons as a title winner? Because they've certainly lost a bit of ground on a lot of teams early on.
Yeah, they've dropped points recently. So I do have some concerns about MK Dons and the fit between Paul Warren's style and the group of players that he's got. So I do have some concerns about that, but I also think I don't think we should underestimate the level of individual quality. So they've got Callum Patterson up top, who's played for championship playoff sides in Cardiff City. They've got Nathaniel Mendes-Lang, who was a top player in League One a couple of seasons ago with Derby County. They've got Russian Hepburn Murphy and Mendes-Lang either side of Patterson. They've got Dan Crowley, who's an incredible creative player. And then you look at some of the names off the bench that just kind of roll off the tongue. So Scott Hogan, for instance, has played in the Championship before. So Kane Thompson-Summers, I like, come up from the National League. So I think they've got loads of depth. I think there are some compatibility issues for MK Dons, but I also think they're going to have lots of games where that pure individual star quality is going to show. And also you're going to have a situation where people like Mendes-Lang and Hepburn Murphy are going to be running at Shrewsbury defenders like Will Boyle, for instance, and Tom Anderson, who maybe aren't the most mobile. So I could see MK Dons winning this by a few goals.
Okay, then MK Dons on the -2 handicap versus Shrewsbury Town is 9-1 with Betfred, making for a monster 455-1 treble for Gab, available at 888 spots. Surely worth 50p, just in case.
Dinner's on me, Matt, if this one comes off.
I should hope so as well, yeah. We'll probably just pack the show up and leave it there, actually. Just leave you in green forever. Yeah, definitely retire if that lands. Yeah, okay, so before we do the roundup, I've got to give my pick for League Two, which is a little bit more simple and probably a bit more boring, but I'm hoping it's going to be effective. I'm going to back Swindon to beat Bromley at odds against here, 21-20 with BetVic. There's plenty of even money around as well elsewhere. Two teams I like, to be honest, in League Two, based off what I've seen so far. Bromley, I've been admirers of them since they came up, to be honest. I just think they've really laid the blueprint for how that adaptation from the National League to League Two should be done, really, in that they've not massively reinvented the wheel with how they play. It's not always spectacular, but I think that Andy Woodman's a very good manager at just kind of accepting what that individual fixture needs and you know, laying down a plan to get that point or the 3 points. And his team clearly have a lot of respect for him and buy into him. So when I'm looking at Bromley games, I'm always quite reluctant to take them on, actually. But I was taken with Woodman's comments this week that he feels like he's going to a Swindon side who he described as the best team in League Two, in his opinion. I'm not sure I quite agree with that, but I would certainly agree that Swindon are playing particularly well at the moment. And if you look at their start to the League Two season, 6 wins from 9, and the 3 games that they have lost have all been to late goals. Opening day against Walsall, they lost having dominated really with, I think Walsall had 10 men and won it in injury time. Barnett scored a couple after the 85th minute to get a win. And then they lost last minute at Salford, I think, last week as well. So even the games that they have been, on the wrong side of, they've been very fine margin. There's been some impressive wins in there as well. I did have my reservations about Ian Holloway going into this season. I think we discussed it, Gab, more of a firefighter and more of an impact manager. Would he be able to build something sustainable? And to his credit, they've started very well here. They've been particularly impressive at home. And I just think with Woodman's comments here about coming up against the best team in the league, I think he's going to try and set up to spoil this game and maybe go for a draw, which would obviously be a good result for Bromley. They have drawn 5 of their 9 games this season. However, Swindon are the league's top scorers, 19 goals in 9 games. They've got in-form players. And what I like, even though they have obviously got a centre forward that scored 6 goals, the goals seem very shared out, which is always a positive, isn't it? When you've got multiple players popping up and scoring, you're not overly reliant on one player. So I think when I combine all these factors in, I think to be getting odds against or around double your money on Swindon, with the greatest respect to Bromley, I think if Swindon play at the capacity they've played over the last 3 or 4 weeks, I think they will find a way through. I feel like Bromley are coming here for a 0-0. It might end up 1 or 2-0 to Swindon. Is kind of how I see this game going. So that's why I'm going to take the 21-20 available with BetVictor on Swindon to beat Bromley.
Right, Matt, what the hell are you doing backing against a team that has only lost 1 of their first 9?
Well, I think if we're going to apply that logic, then on that basis, then we're saying that Bromley are only going to lose 5 or 6 games all season. I just don't. I don't think that is a sustainable trend. And I think if you look
for odds for a shade of evens, it's 21-20 for a team that's only lost once so far.
Yeah, I think this is what I mean. So I think the fact that Andy Woodman is describing this as the best team in the league, and I don't know whether you necessarily agree with that or not. I probably don't. I think they're showing themselves to be definitely playoff contenders, and League Two has an open look to it this season, so maybe they can push for automatic. But I do think that reeks to me of a manager who's going to tell his team that a point here will be a fantastic result, and we'll just be digging in for the point and stuff. And I don't think that's the way to play it against a team that scored 19 goals. Personally, I think if you're going to go and try and set up for a 0-0 against the highest scoring team in your division, I'm not sure you're going to be able to achieve that all that often. And I actually look at a lot of Bromley's goals have been sort of set pieces and stuff. And I think that will be the ploy again. But I just think I'm more than happy to put my faith in a free scoring team here. I don't think that this. Yes, I have a lot of respect for Bromley. I've spoke really highly of them a few times, but I don't think it's sustainable for them to win to only lose 1 in 9 for the remainder of the season. And I think the losses have to come somewhere. And I think this game on paper against a free scoring side looks a tough one for them to sort of go and do their usual shutout job. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I might take the Bromley double chance at 4-5. Okay. And you can take the Swindon at 21-20. Are you up for a little £5 charity wager?
I certainly am. Yeah.
All right, we can discuss deets, but
it's on camera now, so I don't think there's any weaseling out of it. But I can certainly do that. Yeah,
we can discuss deets afterwards. But I think there's a much better chance that Bromley avoid defeat than that Swindon win.
We shall see. Are you not convinced by Swindon then, Gab? I'm getting that vibe.
Well, I think they've been a very good attacking team so far, but I just also think that I get this feeling that they can be got at. Like, okay, it's great that they've scored 19 goals, but they've also conceded 13.
Are Bromley the team to go and get at them?
Well, you say that. They've got strikers who have scored goals. They've got Michael Cheek. They've got Nick Kabamba, who've scored 4 goals apiece so far this season. You mentioned they're less reliant on Cheek. They were last season. They've got Omar Shawame, who will put his head on everything from attacking set pieces and long throws. So I think maybe not so much in open play, but from set piece scenarios, I think they can cause problems for Swindon. So I see this as a bag of revels against a chocolate hobnob. You don't know what you're going to get from the bag of revels, whereas you do know what you're going to get from the chocolate hobnob. So that's how I'm looking at this game.
It's the first time I've ever heard anybody use that for a football match, I can assure you, and hopefully the last. No, but do you know what? Don't mind a bit of back and forth, and in another week, I'll be back in Bromley double chance. You know, I really do like Bromley, but I just have there's a suspicion to me that Andy Woodman's going to set them up to be really, really tight here. And I think normally when you go for defensive against a free scoring team, it doesn't tend to end well. And I think if it goes 1-0 Swindon, it could go 2-0. That's where I see it. But we shall see. Time will tell. Maybe Bromley will only lose 5 this season. Good luck to them. Basically, those bets combine for me for a 12-1 treble, which in comparison to Gab's 455-1 treble does look a little bit modest, but hopefully it's a winning one. So we will just recap our best bets then before we let you go. And Gab, starting with yourself, let's get yours up on the screen here. So you've gone for the Oxford 0-0 with Sheffield United at 9-1. The draw half-time, Bolton full-time is just show 4-1 with William Hill, and MK Dons -2 is 9-1. I'm going to guess your nap before you say it. I think it's MK Dons at Shrewsbury, but tell me.
Yeah, I'm going to go for MK Dons -2 because I think it gives you a lot of flexibility regardless of how many goals MK Dons score. So,
Very confident. Very confident, talking me into that 5-4 on the MK Dons win. I think, could be a good one for accumulators if Gab is correct with his read there. And then my best bets are QPR to beat Sheffield Wednesday at just over 6-4. We bet MGM, Stockport to beat Reading and over 2.5 goals, 33-20, and Swindon to beat Bromley, controversial at 21-20. That combines for a 12-1 treble at Betfred. You'll be pleased to hear, Gab, that my best bet would be QPR to beat Sheffield Wednesday. I know you're not sold on the other two, but you were sold on that one, I think. And I just think the price it looks way bigger than I was expecting. Sometimes you just have a run through the coupon, don't you? And you kind of have a rough idea of what you expect each team to be. And QPR was the one where I went like, oh, that's bigger than I thought it would be. And digging into it, I don't really see the logic. So I'm happy to stick them up as my best bet. Okay, well, I think that rounds everything off. Thanks very much for tuning in to this week's EFL Betting Show. Let us know what you are backing. If you're watching this on Twitter or on YouTube, just drop us a comment or a reply and let us know your best bets for this weekend. If you are having a bet this weekend, please do keep it fun and gamble responsibly. Myself and Gab will be back next Friday to do it all over again. And in the meantime, do visit Odds Now for all the latest sports betting tips and insight. We'll see you again soon.